I'm sure everyone tells you this, but dear God, the show, and I think season two somehow is even better than season one. So, and I have to fully admit, I think casting is such like a fascinating art form because I feel like I could kind of see who could be right for something, but I feel like I have no idea. So I feel
Mhm.
like I'm always excited to talk to costume or casting directors because it's sort of like I don't know how y'all operate. So I'm always so long story short, thank you for
Aw,
taking the time to talk to me.
that's so
Um
nice. I appreciate the appreciation. That's really
yeah. Well, it's just
that's
like when
something.
casting is great, you can tell that it's great because when like the first time I saw Janelle James, I was like, oh,
Oh,
it's so, like what a ferocious talent she is.
I felt the
Um,
exact same way when her audition came in.
mhm.
It was just I remember there was a moment where I thought if everybody doesn't see what I see, that's one of those moments where like I should get another job because it was so clear and
Yeah.
obvious. And then there's that moment of complete fear where you're like, what if this is one of those times you don't align? But
Mm,
she was just a slam dunk. So
yeah.
phew.
Yeah.
I'm still chewing
Woo.
it.
No. I guess I guess I wanted to know, in a general sense. I've been asking everybody from Abbott this year, just like the beginning of season two, we see Janine like super excited to start a new year. And I guess I wanted to know from you as a casting director what you were most excited about diving into the season, even though you're not on screen, you are behind the screen. So I was curious, I guess, what you were most excited for us to see.
Well, I think it was just the overall vibration of the show. I mean,
Mhm.
when you're casting a show that hasn't aired yet, there's a lot of explaining to reps to, you're
Mm.
trying to explain what the show is. They haven't seen it. There's a little bit of a leap of faith on some level. And I feel like
Mm.
Abbott, sort of bridge that gap naturally better than most shows anyways. But then to come back for season two when it was becoming such a phenomenon and to be on that train, um and to know like it was just so much easier reaching out to talent and names as you
Mm.
can see from the season. Like it was a different experience, and to be part of something with that kind of momentum was, that was for us really exciting.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, it was I've never experienced anything quite like that.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know anybody who doesn't love this show. Like if
Yeah.
they don't like the show, they rightfully keep their mouth shut because they will get like socked in the face. But I don't know of anybody who can't latch onto something in the show. Um, I did want to ask about a couple specific casting decisions, if I could, just
Yeah,
because I love Lauren Weedman so much,
me too.
and anything she pops up in, I'm always excited. Whether it's like Looking or Will and Grace. And there, I wanted to know, like, with somebody like Melissa, who outwardly she has a very certain like persona, and somebody we sort of know that there's this falling out between them. um I guess what qualities did you look for when it comes to casting somebody who I guess has such a strong presence and such like a really strong connection, whether it's good or bad, with their sibling? Because I thought that was one of my favorite bits of casting this year.
Well, what's interesting is when we were doing the pilot, it came down to those two actresses,
Oh wow, really?
the role. So Lauren tested um
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
for the role, yes. And it really was an embarrassment of riches. I mean, both were so good and so
Yeah.
wonderful. And it was one of those, you wish you could have had both,
Hmm.
but somebody has to prevail. And so it was just the perfect way of having her back in the show or being in the show. And they're just, they were both so good. And then together it was like fireworks. So
Wow.
yeah.
I could watch just the show of those two fighting. Can you imagine like an Italian cooking show with those two? Like, just give it to me. I don't know. There's there's something about just there's something just about the way, and I don't think I've seen Lauren in a part like this before, where she's just like, so tough, so
Oh,
outwardly like, and
but
it's
she
so,
is.
uh
She's so fearless.
you can
Just
see
and
it on her
so
face.
fast.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like every
Um,
audition she's ever been in, just you can't keep up with her. She's just bam, bam, bam. She's done the lines and she's out of character and then she's back. And there's such a speed to her
mhm.
brain and humor. It's I felt like it just got showcased so well.
Oh yeah. Hmm. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I wanted to know from your perspective, what makes like a really good guest star? Just because I don't know. I'm just like sort of just gushing at you now because the Taraji P. Henson casting, like Jiminy Christmas, that is so amazing. And that's like one of those casting choices as a viewer. I was like, oh my God, I can totally see it. As soon as I heard her name, like on Twitter or something, I was like, that makes perfect sense. Or like when Leslie Odom Jr. pops up. I love that he's playing that type of character who's like sort of different than a character we've seen him
Yeah.
play before. But so I guess for these like small, perhaps maybe recurring parts, what do you kind of like look for in the room to like bring people in for like a small part?
Well, uh meaning like because those were bigger, like
Yeah.
like supporting.
Yeah,
I
I
think
guess maybe, yeah, just bringing in new people for like maybe smaller arcs on the show.
yeah, because we read a lot of people for Leslie's role, and some incredible people went on tape for it.
Mhm.
So we had some really fun options. I think we weren't for that role specifically, we weren't going for comedy as much as somebody who was a little formidable,
Mhm.
and had a little bit of that intimidation. So it was trying to find that balance of who could, you know, get the joke but not be a part of the joke. They had a bit of a different vibe than everybody
Mhm.
else in the season. And then, when Leslie was, and his schedule was super tight, he was doing a lot of press then, as I remember. And so that role was also an embarrassment of riches. Like, so many people were throwing their hat in the ring and just
Mhm.
interested. But I think, and I think it could have been potentially, I mean, Leslie's pretty flashy, but I think it was trying to find really the ingredients that the role needed and really finding the actor who inhabited those,
Mhm.
versus just going for a wow. Leslie kind of did both, but didn't pull you too out of it, because that's been the thing with
Yeah.
Abbott, is nobody really up until then has been distracting.
Mhm.
You're in this world and you stay in this world and you don't get pulled out of it. And so that's, the as it becomes more and more popular and more people are interested in being on the show, um it's you still have to believe we're in this world. So I think
Yeah. Hmm.
Leslie's enough. He can kind of slide in and slide out easier than Taraji.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of seeing him like in concert, and he has like, he's such presence. I imagine any room he walks into, he's, Oscar nominee, Tony Award winner. I mean,
Yeah.
you would imagine that someone of his caliber would sort of just like, that would sort of be the focal point. But I think both with both of these actors, I feel like they infuse everything with such character, and you can tell that the character is most important to them. So I think
That's
that's,
right.
yeah. Okay. Um, I guess the last person specifically that I wanted to ask about was Ashley Garcia, just because what a like sort of the same way I was speaking about Janelle, she's sort of like a
uh,
force, but I guess in like a really chaotic, um, not
she
probably intentionally antagonistic way towards Lisa Ann. But yeah, you tell me what
I
it was like to sort of
replayed
bring
her
her
scenes. Like, I would just go
in.
back and play some of her lines
With the
again and again.
skeleton, where she's playing with the skeleton, like,
Oh, yeah, I can't do that. Yeah. She was great. I think because she had that arc on Curb,
mhm.
um, and was so good. And I think in the writers' room when they were banding about ideas, I think she came up actually in the writers' room. And
Oh
I don't know
wow.
who had seen, I'm assuming they had
Hmm.
seen the Curb. I wasn't in the room, but I think it's that kind of, yeah, it's those kind of weirdos characters that are embraced that you're like, I just love it because you don't, they take the time and for those subtleties to be able to enjoy it. You don't rush through these characters or the people. You
Mhm.
actually get to know them and their weirdness. And I just, it's what makes the show so special and unique, really.
Yeah, like this is a show where I mean I think with Abbott both years, last year and this year, I've just been talking about how like, you know, not like the network ensemble is back, but it sort of feels like, you know, the focus of that is really being spotlighted in the last couple of years, like
Mhm.
across a couple of different shows. And I just feel like I get this real sense of care taken from the actor to the page to the performance. And it is so balanced. No one is jumping out, even if like a character has a big moment, like people either match their energy or the character's energy steps back. So it's really just like a collective ensemble. It's sort of like hard to even talk about just because it's sort of just watching it is a singular enough of an experience. So
It's so true though. I mean, there's no, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like there could possibly be an ego because
no,
again,
not at all.
it's the sum is bigger than the whole.
Hmm.
Or is it the other way around? Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's like they all and but then when I've watched interviews with the cast too, I mean, I feel that's part of what they talk about as well. Like it's just bigger than all of them, and I think Quintessence that sets that tone
Mm. Okay.
as well. You know, like it's not just about, it's not the Janine show. It's she's the epicenter, but every piece of it is just as important, which is
Oh yeah. Hmm.
wonderful.
And it's really kind of cool to if you kind of like really dig into a, like if you focus on one character, like when I spoke with Tyler James Williams last week, and I was just focusing on his scenes and focusing on his, you know, his arc throughout season two when I was doing some prep. And it's sort of like if you put like a laser focus on one character, you really pick up on a lot of nuances that they really bring in. But it's sort of like when they're in a room together, it's so it like it expands in a weird way that it just feels like they're literally working as one. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's kind of strange to sort of have that perspective. I don't know. I'm diving real deep.
No, it's true because when you think about like in the teacher's room, the teacher's lounge,
Hmm.
when Perfetti's in there and they're having those moments, it's it I feel like on so many shows it would, you would kind of lose focus, or it would be, I don't feel like you would stay in it with them the same way, but it's like diamond after diamond. If you pay attention and you're
Hmm.
listening, you just get rewarded line after line. Like it never ends. It's just everything is gold, and or it's a setup to a piece of gold.
Yeah.
It's they all, the more, and when people keep entering the room, it's even going to get better. You're like, oh gosh,
Yeah. Ava will come in,
well
she'll come
here,
out, Mr. Johnson will come in. It's just
yeah. Yeah, Mr. Johnson. Yeah, he's not going to just walk in. He's going to
he'll
zing you
like no,
something.
he'll single something out and stay for a couple minutes and then leave. But
Hmm.
yeah. I wanted to ask about the casting of some kids, just because what is that phrase? It was like never work with animals, children, or drag queens. But it's sort of like
The drag queens, I think, is a new ad.
no. But I was just, you know, obviously we're at school, the kids are very important. But when you're sort of you know, focusing on a child like the young lady who's helping Mr. Johnson and
Isn't she
Ava with,
great?
yeah, she's great. Or that adorable little boy who plays Micah, whose job it's just to like just disrupt the class, just
Yeah.
mess with Gregory. Um, I guess, is there an art to finding like the right child actor, especially in the setting? Like how does I feel like that has to be a lot harder than it looks.
Let me tell you the skill that goes into this. So no, you know what? Because it's first of all, it's on Zoom, or the
Mhm.
kids are self-taping. Because
Makes sense.
we've
Yeah.
been in COVID protocols for almost the entire process. So,
Mhm.
and then it's hard. I mean, it's hard to really know. Um,
Mm.
and so I think on some level, I don't want to say it's a crapshoot, but on some level, you can't really know. But I think all of that is to say that comes down to the directing. Like
Okay.
I am amazed what they get out of those kids. And then, again, the articles, because I'm not on set, the articles that I've read where there was one I just read the other day, and they were talking about how Cheryl Lee, when she walked in the room, I think it was the first day, and the kids were crazy and they hadn't seen each other in forever, and it had been
Mhm.
COVID and they hadn't been around other kids, and they were just, wow. And she came in and was like, all right, let's go. This is like, as though she was really the teacher. And that, I think what I've heard is that the kids really think they're in class. Like they start
Yeah,
thinking they're in class because they're
I've
doing
read that.
assignments, and they start thinking it's real.
Yeah.
But I think, again, all of that is that it just, I think they just keep getting these phenomenal performances out of these kids, because we've gone through many actors. So
Mhm.
we've used a lot of kids with resumes, and we have a lot now that don't have a lot of resumes,
Mhm.
or extras that are then cast as extras that are getting upgraded.
Mhm.
Um, you know, it's I truly think a lot of it comes down to the directing.
Okay. I wonder if there's just like I imagine like, 15, 20 years from now, if I imagine there's going to be like a bunch of kids who maybe will be on set for a couple of years, and that's going to probably feel like school to them or education to
Yeah.
them. That's so. I saw an article where they're like they actually do homework while they sit there or
Yes,
something
that's
like
right.
that, and
Read
that
that
was
too.
just like the most freaking heartwarming thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And it's just like that has to be a blast for those kids on set. Um,
Yeah.
okay. I guess one last question before I let you go is I always ask casting directors because I actually genuinely want to know this. If somebody was gonna like submit a self-tape to you or walk into a room specifically for Abbott Elementary, what do you wish that they would keep in mind, like as they start whatever they're doing?
I think it's the tone of the show, very grounded. Don't swing, for the jokes, to keep it really grounded,
Yeah.
really, it's much more natural. And really just bring you a version of you to it. Don't try and be a character, or
Mhm.
that also bring a little false. Just bring kind of that version of you, because that's what'll make you the most unique. There's no one else like you. So to bring that into it in a grounded but fun way, I think
Hmm.
is the best start.
Yeah, because it also feels like with Abbott specifically, it is sort of like bringing in an outside perspective in order to play with who you are sort
Yeah.
of feels like how they mine a lot of comedy and they can tap into a lot of character and personality. Um, okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, Wendy. This season, I was telling somebody, it might have been William Stanford, that it was just like this show I feel really brought back for a lot of people like appointment television. Like my husband and I, we were like, we have to be home on like Wednesdays to make sure we watch Abbott because we wanted to watch it before social media blows up because every week it blows up about the show
Hmm.
and it was sort of just like don't tell me, don't tell me, don't tell me. But so I feel like the show is so special, and it's also just painfully funny. So
I
thank
love
you.
that.
Yeah, it's just wonderful, and it's one of those shows that I know that I'm gonna keep coming back to, like over and over again, like
I
something
love
that I
that.
need to.
I
Yeah.
haven't watched the finale yet. My
Ah.
daughter's in, I know, well, my daughter's in college. She's to be a teacher. She's in education.
Okay.
And so it's funny, she'll tell me that they talk about the show in class, like it'll get referenced, you know, as like a
Funny.
launching point for different discussions in some of her classes. And so she always
Hmm.
like never says anything that she knows anything about the show, but she like is very quiet about it. But anyway, so I promised her she's almost done for the year. So I'm not allowed to watch it until she's home. So I'm like, oh, of course
Of course,
she'll
yeah.
know. Yeah, so that's our next Tuesday. We get to watch it.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Well,
Yeah.
I'm excited for you to watch it. I wish it,
Thank
you
you.
know, to see it again for the first time. It's a great finale. So also
Yeah.
filled with like, you know, a lot of great character stuff. So all right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really swinging for you to win again. I was so
Aw.
happy to see that you won, because when found out that you won for the first season, I was like, yes, of any Emmy win that night, I was like, that makes the most sense, because you gave
Aw.
us you know, you collected a cast that was just so unbelievably balanced and perfect together. So yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. All right. Well, have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much for your time, and
You too. Good luck with the shirt.
we'll see how many times I get paranoid about it. So yeah.
It's a
All
good
right.
color on you, so that's
Thank
good.
you. My pale skin. Yes. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
I get it. Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, Joey.